So, can we be honest about something? Dating after divorce doesn't feel good for a lot of people. It's just not fun anymore. It feels like pressure to impress, pressure not to waste time, pressure to figure people out quickly, right? To get to it, pressure to prove that you're still desirable. And I realized recently that a lot of divorced people don't go on dates excited anymore. They feel like it's a job interview, like another thing to do. They go wondering, am I going to be rejected again? Or is this just not going to work?
And that's the crazy thing that most people never say out loud. Instead, they act detached, cool, unbothered. But inside, they're overthinking the entire situation. And
Mm,
that's just not cool.
it's just not cool. And that's why every date can start feeling like a threat to your confidence instead of an opportunity for connection. Welcome to Saying Yes Again.
A podcast about second chances, real love, and opening your heart after heartbreak.
We're your hosts, Dr. Lisa,
And Tony,
a midlife couple who found love after divorce. And now we're here to share our story.
and to remind you that it's never too late to say yes again.
So put on your headphones and listen closely because your next yes could be the one that changes everything.
All right, so this conversation right here, a lot of people are going to see in themselves in this particular one.
Yeah. I think we both had moments when dating stopped feeling natural. It just felt like another thing to do, like a performance review almost.
Exactly. And when you get to that point, that's actually awful.
It is awful.
It
It's an
really
awful feeling.
is. It's not supposed to feel that way. And that's what we're going to talk about today, right, Dr. Lisa?
Yes, we're going to talk about today why every date feels like a threat. So I'm excited to be back again to have this conversation for us to just talk about this topic about dating and why people just kind of feel like, again, it's a job interview.
And I think it's important for us to talk about this because a lot of people are experiencing this in real time. We have, in fact, experienced the same thing. And I think a conversation needs to be had.
Yeah, because we want y'all dating. We want y'all going out excited. We
Right.
want you to meet people. We want you to have connection. So we need to talk
Exactly.
about why it's not fun anymore and why it's just not happening. So I can remember even after my divorce, getting ready for dates and just feeling completely different, right, than when we used to date when we were younger. Before
Oh,
we were
yeah.
excited to go out, we
Wow.
would pick out our clothes,
Exactly.
we'd be ready to just kind of, go around the town. And that's why a lot of relationship coaches and dating coaches are exploding right now for people, in midlife because they're finding it so hard to get out there and date again because it is different.
Yeah. The dating dynamic is real. It's taken on a different face, if,
Yeah.
if you will. You know what I
Absolutely,
mean? So,
absolutely. So back then, dating felt lighter, more curious, you were more open, and after divorce, every date just feels like a heavy load, right? Loaded with questions. You already go in with your whole list of questions
oh my God. Yes.
that you want to ask the individual. And then you leave the date with questions again, like did he think I was attractive? Does he think that I'm too independent? Did I talk too much? Am I too old? Am I too young? Am I too busy? Like all those things.
And a lot of that is on your mind. So that is very, very real.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of you guys have done the exact same thing because I can remember doing it as well.
Yes.
And
Yes.
people
Yes.
don't even realize it. That's the alarming thing. We don't even realize, just how much internal pressure divorced people are carrying around, especially successful people,
Yeah.
and you're bringing it to these potential dates.
Yeah.
That's why we're
Absolutely.
having this discussion.
Yeah. Because now, it's different. We talked about this before. You've built this life, right? You come
Yes.
into your 40s or 50s with a career, with a routine, ooh, with a lifestyle, you know, peace to some extent, or at least your definition of what, peace is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then suddenly dating starts feeling like okay, can somebody actually fit into this piece, right? Can somebody actually fit into my world? Will this disrupt anything? Am I going to have to, shrink myself? Will they accept all the parts of me? So these
Yes.
are just some of the things that I think that we start to ponder and think about.
We start to incorporate all that, pressure onto ourselves, you know? So, but one surprising thing is that men feel pressure as well. And I know a lot of times we think differently about the thought process of men, but I'm speaking on behalf of men. We feel the pressure as well. So people think men are just casually dating without emotion, no connection in some form of fashion. But well, in essence, we are. A lot of men are walking into dates wondering, am I financially fit? Am I financially in a good space? Am I physically fit? Will she think I'm attractive? Will she be interested in accepting my life or my lifestyle? Am I vulnerable enough? And
Mm.
that's very difficult for most men to admit to. Am I vulnerable enough? And, am I being compared to her ex husband?
Ooh.
I can admit that this is it. I've heard this in some of my men's circles periodically. I'm not him. I'm not the gentleman you were married to or
Mm,
dated, and so on and so forth.
yeah,
But these are the conversations that are being had. So,
yeah. Well, I think I appreciate you sharing that. And I think it's important to hear also the man's perspective, which is why, I think that our podcast brings a lot to the table because we talk
yes,
about both sides, right? We talk about the man side, we talk about the woman side. So it's important to get that understanding, I think, from men as well. Yeah.
yeah,
So, and I think that, that whole evaluation process that we put ourselves through or that we, pressure ourselves into changes the whole energy of how you show up.
it really
Because
does.
you now show up like a detective
Yes,
instead of
yes.
just showing up, trying to get some connection. And you're not relaxed anymore. You're just really trying to manage that whole situation and managing what you might even perceive to be true that's not even true.
hmm Yeah, you're speaking a lot of truth right there. If you're so consumed with thinking about if you're going to be accepted, etc., just imagine the fact that you are just moving further and further away from being present.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's not cool, and that takes away from that whole dating dynamic. So that's why people get emotionally tired so fast from dating.
Mm,
Just like you mentioned, you
that's a
become
real
exhausted.
thing.
It's not just bad dates, it's the mental pressure surrounding them. So again, by having a certain level of expectation and bringing
Mhm.
this to a potential date, this is what's happening to us.
Yeah.
And we're not realizing it.
Yeah, and I've heard that a lot, even from my circle as well,
Have you?
from women about this emotional drain, this
Oh, yes.
almost like dating fatigue, right? You just go on date after date after date and you just get emotionally tired and drained. And
Yes.
I think a lot of it is because of the things that we just talked about, because you're showing up at every date, you know, already with these preconceived notions of what you think is true, but also you're bringing all of those questions and the
Yeah.
load and the pressure and everything. So that can be mentally draining after a while.
At this point, this kind of reminds me of something that you like to say quite often, Lisa, self-sabotaging, right? You're self-sabotaging a future date or mate or husband or spouse or whatever, not only because you're coming from an evaluating space whenever you're coming to a potential date, but you're also just self-sabotaging by doing these
Yeah.
things. You have and some, we talked about behind the boss, and some women or men whose dominant traits are often, they have teams, they're coaching, they're in charge, whether they're executives or vice presidents, etc. So you're bringing over these traits, right? To a potential date or whatever. Then you have these other things manifested. So you add these things together and you wonder why the date
Mhm.
didn't happen
Yeah, because 'cause you're
because of
trying to manage it.
so when you add these things together, you have done what Lisa loves to say. You've self-sabotaged the date. And the reason why we want to have this discussion is because we too have done the exact same thing. And we all do it to a certain degree and we don't
Don't
realize it.
realize it.
So we are not being critical of anybody because I'm sure you've done it,
Oh
Lisa. I've
gosh,
done it
numerous
myself.
times.
So let's just wake up. Let's do some self-inventory and chime into what we're saying. So, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, because people do say, again, dating is exhausting.
yeah.
And what they really mean is that this constant, like you said, feeling of like you're being evaluated is
Mm-hmm.
exhausting for
Mm-hmm.
both parties.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're sitting there in a date and in your head already, you're thinking all those questions. Do
Yeah.
they like me? Am I pretty enough? Do I bring enough to the table? Am I this?
Yes.
Am I that? Da 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 da.
Are they emotionally available?
Yeah.
Imagine going to a date and before you even get into a decent conversation, your mind is already thinking about these particular questions.
Yeah.
Are they emotionally available? Do
Yeah.
they find me attractive?
Yeah.
You know, am I wasting my time or wasting their time? Are they judging me? Are
Mm,
they serious? Right?
that's another one.
Where we
Yeah.
are in terms of our life cycle, we always want to know, is this person serious? Is he or
Yes.
she serious? Or is this just a casual date for them?
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Right. Right.
are they interested? This is one real popular amongst the ladies, especially professional women. Don't take this the wrong way. You know, do they want a commitment?
Mm-hmm. That's true. That is true because again, we're in the period of our lives where we don't want to waste time.
Yeah.
I mean, you know?
Yeah. And I agree with that, Dr. Lisa.
Yeah.
We do not want to
I don't
waste
want to
time,
waste
but
time.
please understand that that is not relaxed energy. Right?
Mhm.
That's not relaxed energy. That's multitasking on a date and
Multitask.
not being present in the moment, right?
Yes. Yes. Multitasking on a date. I get it. I really do. I
M-
really do because I'm in
Multi
I'm in multitask mode as it is. So, yes, multitasking on a date. All these different things going on at the same time instead of just like we said before being present.
just allowing the date to soak in. So if you have all these things going on, how on earth can you really and truly just unconditionally commit to an
Yeah.
organic date,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and social media makes it worse, right? Because
Yes.
now everybody feels like they have to show up being the best versions of themselves. We see on social media how these dates are, right? People showing up with expensive clothes, they're going to expensive restaurants, they're getting out of these expensive cars. The guy is bringing 2 dozen roses. And we know that that's not, all the time what happens authentically.
No, no, it's not. Unrealistic
Unrealistic.
relationship dynamic.
Exactly. Hashtag not relationship goals.
Not at all. Not at all.
So you have people trying to seem unbothered, successful, healed, luxurious, emotionally mature. Meanwhile, internally, they're terrified, I think, of just being rejected
Oh,
again.
wow. So they're just masking it
They're just masking it.
with all of these artificial supplements.
Exactly, exactly. Trying to show to the world everything's so beautiful
Yeah.
and everything's so together, but still really inside, internally fighting with that, feeling of rejection.
Yeah. So real talk, that pressure can make good people come across disconnected,
Mm,
right? It can make you come across extremely disconnected,
yes.
not because they lack interest, because they're too busy trying not to fail.
Mm,
Everybody's out here with this, like we mentioned, mimicking this unrealistic, unattainable relationship dynamic that's being perpetuated in some social media circles,
yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's just not a good space to be,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, trying so hard not to fail. And I think sometimes when we try so hard, again, trying to be in control of the situation, you don't come across as your authentic self. And so you appear to be just pretty much disconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people also misread, being nervous or being guarded as being incompatible, right?
Mm,
So a lot of times people show up that way because of past relationships and, things that they've been through where Actually, both people might just be, again, scared of disappointing each other.
I remember when we went out to dinner, our first dinner date.
Mm,
You were very quiet,
I was
extremely
very
quiet, came across somewhat guarded. So I can relate. I can totally relate. And I
Mhm.
chose to feel, I was going through my own self evaluation. She's not interested. Maybe she doesn't like me. Is it the midriff? You know what I mean? And I mentioned that to you when we walked to the car. No, I don't think I mentioned it to you, but I remember, you kind of, when you're departing after the first date, the
Oh
lady
boy,
kind
here
of
we go.
strategically fumbles through her purse and she gives you this sweep with the
Once
eye,
over.
the once over. Man, I got in my car and I was like, "Oh my god," she looked at my midriff. Am I gonna hear from her again? Now you hear all this negativity that's going on in my mind, my midriff. And what does she expect at our age, right? Is she gonna call me tomorrow? Is she gonna answer the phone? So,
Yeah, yeah. And I think
self-sabotaging.
yeah, again, yeah, but I appreciate the fact that you didn't let my nervousness and my guardedness, prevent us from going on another date,
No, because I
right?
was so focused. I noticed, the calmness about yourself. The conversation was phenomenal. And I mention this because these are some of the things that we don't notice when we come in with our ready made agenda,
Mm,
our apprehensions, our pessimisms and stuff,
yeah,
treating it like a job interview or whatever, or exit interview. I noticed all these things. I look at the body language, etc.
yeah, yeah.
She's a wonderful listener. So I was telling on myself when I wasn't even cognizant of it.
And you have to give people a chance, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Sometimes first dates can be just nervous energy, getting out nervous energy, so
Yeah. Hey, listen. So if you have a midriff, don't be afraid.
So, you know what kinda changed, I think, dating for me? It was
What was it?
I did stop treating dates like decisions that had to be made right then and there,
So
right,
you were
about my
treating dates
future.
like that at
I
one point in time?
Yeah, because, again, like we mentioned earlier, I was kinda getting to that point of dating fatigue. So it was like, if I gotta go on one more date and go through this one more time, I'm just gonna get as much as I can in the beginning, as much information, but that wasn't working either. So I had to stop treating each date like, again, this was going to be the decision for my future and just kind of let it naturally,
Just naturally flow.
progress. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just start treating dates like an experience. What did I experience from that date, good or bad? And then just make a decision and move on.
An experience. That's a beautiful thing.
Hmm.
Explain that. Explain that.
I think when you treat something like an experience, there's no expectation,
Yeah.
right? You just go in just feeling as if whatever shows up and whatever presents itself, I'm going to be open to it
Yeah.
instead of going in again with this ready made agenda. And I think the act of being present also allows you to experience things because if you're not present, you miss a whole lot.
And I'm glad you brought that up. The fact of being present. Do you remember when you were about to abruptly end our date? I demanded, gentlemen, technique. I demanded
Oh
that
my
you had some of the
God.
dessert, pecan cobbler. And she
Yes.
kinda, like, wrestled in her seat or whatever, as if she wasn't aware that I was trying to prolong the conversation.
Yes,
But it was the experience, baby, the
it
experience,
was.
right?
I'm glad that you brought that up. I never thought about it that way. I never thought about the dessert at the ending of the date actually being an experience, and it actually was, you know?
Soften the date
It did
from all
soften
the
the date.
seriousness, the conversation. Does he
Yeah.
like me? Does he look good? Does he have all of his teeth? Is he financially stable? How many kids does he have? Does he live at home? Do they live at
At home.
home? Is he riding a bike? Does he have a car? Is it a rental? All these things go through our mind. And I'm sure you guys can relate to that. So,
Yes, yes, yes. The dessert was the experience. Exactly.
okay.
Oh my gosh. So, I think that also, within one dinner, people may be trying to figure out, right? like you said, could I marry this person? Could this person hurt me? Um, could this work long term? That pressure really kills, again, being present.
Yeah. Yeah. It really does. And I think if we backtrack, I think that you have to satisfy realistically in the belly or the confines of the experience the prerequisites that earn you the right to get to that type of thought process. You
Mhm.
know, we're not teenagers anymore, so we looked at dating one way, quite different from the way we look at it now once we
Yeah.
experience life, etc. But let's satisfy those prerequisites. So if you remember, Lisa, I very intentionally made our dating process and experience. I'm just going to lay it all out here
Oh,
because it's for
boy.
the benefit of the people. We didn't go over one another's houses. We very intentionally dated. I wanted her to feel like a little girl in a field, just, plucking daisies or lilies. And we have to get back to that because dating, marriage, and everything is so serious now
Yeah.
with the participation of media, et cetera, that, the divorce rate is still climbing, all
Mhm.
time high, singleness is celebrated.
Yeah.
So we intentionally dated. I wanted to go to a different restaurant, different cologne, different conversation piece. I wanted it to be tantalizing, right? Let's tantalize people, right?
So extra.
Come on now.
Mhm. I think it's important to give people an experience, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not just make it seem as if this is just another checkbox, right?
Right.
Or that each person that you date is getting even the same experience. Because people
Exactly.
can kind of figure that out too. Like,
Right.
yeah, is this his MO,
Can I
right?
can I come
Or
over?
this is her MO or
Can I come
whatever.
over? I just met you. No, you can come over. All right, let's get back on track.
Yeah, so I think that so that's good.
That's good.
That was a good point that you made.
Good point.
Mhm, mhm.
Usually I get reprimanded.
Yeah, so I realized that, I wasn't struggling with dating itself. Again, I was just struggling with, like we mentioned before, that emotional weight attached to every interaction,
Yeah.
that at some point just became really exhausting.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that, a lot of people just get tired of carrying that emotional pressure every time that they date.
Oh, yeah, it's a huge pressure. It's an enormous pressure. So who
Yeah,
wants to go through all of that,
yeah, yeah.
right? Let's not be so serious, even though it's serious because,
Right.
you're in the second leg of your life. You'd like to have somebody dining within your livelihood, et cetera, to share your experience, to be your friend, your confidant, et cetera. So, but I had to loosen up. Yeah, I
Mhm.
had to keep that in mind.
So that's the one right there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Because one awkward date starts feeling like, see, this is why relationships don't work.
Oh,
This is
boy.
why I choose not
Not
to
to
date.
date.
I am not wasting my time. My time is too valuable.
Uh-huh. Yeah, instead of, that maybe it just wasn't the right person, right? So you don't
Yeah.
have to put a whole negative spin on the
No.
dating
Mm-mm.
process. Just chalk it up to that person just not being the right person.
And I'm so glad she said that because before I met Lisa, I had been on about 10 to 15 different dates. None of them worked out. From my perspective, there were a few people that I didn't think were really interested in me,
Mhm.
but I still paid for the meal. A lot of my friends would tell me, I'm not paying for the meal. I still paid for the meal, ended like a gentleman, and just kept it moving.
Mhm.
But I didn't start, internalizing that.
Yeah. Or
Am I
putting a
not
sour
attracted?
taste on
Yeah,
dating. Yeah.
yeah. Like, what's
So
wrong
you
with
ruin it
me?
for the next person who might be the right person.
It's the numbers, baby. Right? No, I'm just joking.
Exactly. I think when every interaction starts feeling emotionally loaded, then dating stops feeling fun. It stops
Yeah,
feeling, human.
yeah,
So you lose
yeah.
that connection. And then again, you just start managing, what the risk is for dating, as opposed to, again, just trying to determine who's that right person for you.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest, mindset shifts after divorce is learning how to stop treating every date like it's a verdict of how much you're worth.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because that's what a lot of people are unconsciously doing, right?
Yes.
So a bad date turns into this whole negative mindset around I'm
I'm not
not desirable.
attractive.
Exactly.
Oh yeah. I'm not attractive. I've been through too
I'm
much.
too old.
I'm too old. My hair's too gray. You
There's
know,
nobody out there for me. Yeah. There's no good men left. That's another one. Or
self
there's no good women
sabotaging.
left. Yeah.
Yeah, I was there. So I totally
Mhm.
understand.
Mhm.
And that's dangerous because now dating becomes tied to identity or self worth.
Mhm.
We've gotten to that space where it's a reflection of our identity, how we value ourselves, the whole
Yeah.
midriff episode that we just spoke about. Oh, God, heaven forbid. Let me go home and do some crunches. I have to embrace where I am in life right now, always maintaining self improvement, right? But let's be
Mhm.
realistic,
Yeah.
you get to that 50, 59, et cetera, things start,
Yeah.
changing that whole dynamic. But it doesn't mean that you don't try to improve yourself,
Yeah.
right? To this day, we try to improve ourselves, right, baby?
Yeah, and I think, every bad date can't become, again, a negative reflection on you.
No,
It was the date.
no,
It was the
exactly,
person. It had nothing to do with you and how you showed up, right?
exactly.
We're not going to start entering dating and then just changing everything about us that
No,
makes us who we are authentically. You know, you want to show up obviously nice looking, you want to show up,
yeah,
prepared, but it doesn't mean that you have to go through this whole self-devaluing process of going through these negative things that you've already thought up in your mind.
no, no. Let's not do that. Love yourself enough to spare yourself of doing that.
Yeah. So every date again, it's not a reflection on your value. If it didn't go well, it just didn't go well. And it's just information that you use to take to the next date,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think that changed everything for me because I started doing that. I was like, okay, so what happened on these last couple of dates that just didn't go right?
Well, you told me the guy picked you up, tried to pick you up in a hearse.
Oh, God.
Was it a hearse, baby?
You just tell everything.
Right. I didn't mention any names. We have to be honest with our audience, babe. We're being realistic. Some people out there may have gone through the very same
Oh,
thing.
my
But
God.
we won't delve into that. Let's just keep it going.
Yeah. But
You
it's
know?
again, it was an experience and it was an experience that I chose not to continue with. So we just have to just use information again that we have, from the dates that we go
That's right.
on and stop assigning meaning to like every interaction that happens and just relax.
Honesty. That's when people become far more attractive, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
When they stop trying to prove themselves every 5 minutes. My car, my job, my house. Lisa and I didn't do any of that. And everybody is different, but we didn't feel like that was important. We
Mhm.
wanted to put all of that stuff aside and just focus on our experience.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I had to literally pull her out of that bathroom that she strategically went to, yes, a motel, before the end of the dinner.
Oh God.
I know you was just scared, baby, but that's okay. That's a normal emotion, right?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And it's about again the experience, how you make the other person feel,
That's
right?
right.
How you make the other person feel. Then you can get down to the all your non-negotiables and everything.
It was about that pecan cobbler,
Oh
but
God.
let's keep it
Oh my God. So if dating is starting to feel emotionally heavy for you right now, we want you to just ask yourself, are you actually afraid of dating or are you just exhausted from feeling evaluated at every date? Right? So are you actually afraid of dating or is it just that emotional exhaustion that we just talked about? Because those are kind of two different things.
Yes, they are, very much so. Honestly, a lot of divorced people don't need better flirting skills. They actually need permission to stop treating every date like a test that they can't fail.
That's good. That's really good. Because I think that, connection starts to grow faster when you're more curious about the date. So
Oh,
back
yeah.
to the experience
Mm,
rather than trying to show up and perform, right?
exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who keeps saying, dating just feels different now. or I'm just tired of dating. Because maybe they just don't hate dating. Maybe they just forgot what it feels like to show up without the pressure, right? So if you want to meet people, like without the apps, without interviews, without the performance energy, make sure that you are signed up for our email list so that you can become notified of our next upcoming mature mixer for singles over 40 for this exact purpose. So you don't have to show up in performance mode all the time.
Hmm. Yes, that's a definitely wonderful way to meet people. We had one mature mixer already, and we'll be
Hmm.
having another one real soon. Make sure you guys chime into our website. We will be putting updates about any events that we'll be having in the future. Also, like Lisa mentioned, sign up for our email list so we can provide you with information about where we're going or what Saying Yes Again is doing as a podcast family. And above and beyond that, subscribe. You
Yes.
can find us on all social media platforms: YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, right?
Hmm.
And again, our website, Saying Yes Again, we have episodes,
Hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
Subscribe,
Yes.
subscribe, subscribe.
Yes, definitely. So we'll see y'all on the next episode. All right.
Yes.
All
And
right.
remember, don't give up on dating.
Yes.
All right?
Goodbye.
Bye.